to have you join me on Housing Development, a program that answers your question on real estate, housing construction, mortgage finance, and a whole lot more. Here we'll bring you up to speed on the happenings in the housing sector, both on the local and international scene. As always, I am Flora Ani, your housing diva. After the news, we shall be discussing housing-related issues. Stay with me.
The NASD over-the-counter securities exchange recorded a marginal rise of 0.01% on Tuesday, March 14, to remain in positive territory. This saw the NASD unlisted securities index grow by 0.04 points at the close of transactions to 729.79 points, from the 7.29.75 points achieved in the previous session, while the market capitalization of the bourse was jacked higher by 60 million naira to 959.96 billion naira from 958.90 billion naira. The improvement in the key performance indices of the unlisted securities market was influenced by the day's single price mover, Nigeria Mortgage Refinance Company NMRC PLC, which gained 26 kobo to close at 5.50 naira per unit compared with the previous day's closing value of 5.24 naira per unit. During the session, there was a rise in the volume of securities traded at the bourse by 187.5% to 30.5 million units, from the 10.6 million units quoted at the Monday session. Abe Mortgage Bank is celebrating 31 years of operating in Nigeria, setting its sights on more innovation to consolidate its position in the mortgage industry. The company, which turned 31 on March 11, 2023, said in a statement that it had remained committed to helping customers become homeowners and putting them on the path to financial freedom over the years. According to the statement, the bank has consistently offered innovative products and mortgage services that cater to the tailored needs of its diverse customer base and has also built a reputation of providing excellent customer experience, thanks to its knowledgeable team of bright minds. Right now, in cities across Canada, it is too hard to provide the needed housing, particularly affordable housing. Housing policies are often barriers to producing results, and many Canadians, from young families to seniors to newcomers, are finding it hard to find an affordable place to call home. It is clear that the country needs to accelerate change so as to make the system work for all Canadians. The Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, was in Guelph, Ontario this week to launch the Housing Accelerator Fund (HAF), a $4 billion initiative that will provide funding for local governments to fast-track the creation of 100,000 new homes across Canada. Local governments are now invited to develop innovative action plans in line with the flexible criteria to remove barriers to building more homes faster. Over the next decade, the Government of Canada aims to double the rate of housing construction to make housing more affordable.
To read the full details of the news, do well to visit www.africanhousingnews.com, and also don't forget to go to our YouTube channel, Housing TV Africa, and click on the subscribe button. Every year, people keep looking for houses or land to buy. For many prospective homeowners in Nigeria, their dreams of having a decent roof over their heads through some real estate developers fade away into misery and pain. A lot of Nigerians are falling victims to these fraudulent developers as they barely ever recover their monies. On Voices on the Street today, Nigerians speak on ways to end unethical practices in the housing sector. Have a look.
It's quite unfortunate because we look at the whole thing happening concerning housing estate and also so on. It's a collaboration between the government and the people. Because more of it's just a syndicate business, in the sense that the government called outsiders and gave them the information within their system. People will now go and forge papers. The way to address this problem, one, coming to the streets in form of giving people allocation. You understand? And any staff find one thing should be dealt with. No compromise. Because the big organs normally collect some from their body, say to the field to go and do some work. All this is open room for corruption.
They have to be held, responsible for their action because it's a deceit, it's fraudulent. You know that something is not real and you go ahead to do it in order to implicate others. It is criminal. So they have to be held responsible for their action.
Now, talking about the real estate developers, I believe they did not just come there to develop. This is Federal Capital Territory we're talking about. We have development control. From the very first day they mobilized to that site, I think the development control needs to come to that site to confirm if those persons has the right documents, to if they are also doing the right thing that they are supposed to do on that site. So if any house has been built from the foundation level down to the roofing level, I believe those persons have the right allocation from the federal government. So if any agency should come now to tell me that, okay, this house, I did not have the right documents or no right allocation to that particular land, I think the person should tell me how is it coming out with this finding now.
The management of the Federal Capital Territory Development Authority, FCDA, this is a high time for them to rise up to this occasion, to put all necessary measures on ground to stop all these fraudulent persons from penetrating even inside the FCDA to secure such fraudulent documents.
They are not supposed to. They are the first culprits. Okay. They are the people that they're supposed to hold. How come you get this land? How come this land was approved to you? Who give you the authority to build? When did you clear it there? But you go there, you see innocent people who cannot fight them because they have muscle. They have political gas, they have security at their back. You see them moving out with convoys of police, chains of police everywhere. Innocent poor man cannot fight them there because they have authority that is backing them up. If authority is not backing them up, they are not supposed to be moving inside innocent people land and claiming it that it's an estate, their own estate there. Why the people you rely on that are supposed to they are supposed to be the one that will take justice to, that will give you justice? The authority government established, FCT administration, under urban and regional plan, under development control, under ages, you rely on them. They will fail you. You busy going there, coming back. Why the developer are busy developing and you cannot enter there? When you go there, you see chance of police.
Voices on the Street there. Purchasing a house or land for sale is a significant decision that must be carefully considered because there are numerous variables at play. One of the riskiest kinds of investment in Nigeria is in real estate, particularly given the country's poor regulatory environment. Right after the break, I'll be joined by Town Planner Lami Ayuba. She is the chairperson, Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, FCT chapter. Stay with me. Welcome back. The program is Housing Development. I'm being joined by Town Planner Lami Ayuba. She is the chairman, Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, FCT chapter. Good to have you here, madam.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, they say buying a land or a house is the greatest achievement anyone can invest in, especially at this time in Nigeria. And you know, some people, they save. At the end of the day, they use the savings to get a house or a land where they can retire to at the end of their service year. But in the process of getting this land or a house, they get swindled by some fraudulent estate developers. How can such situations be prevented?
If you want to buy land, you can either buy land from an estate developer or from an allotee that has been previously allocated, or you apply to the land registry, fill a form, open a file, and if they are giving allocations, you get a primary allocation letter. Now, but the current trend and the issue at stake now mostly is with those who buy land from estate developers. First of all, before an estate developer will develop an estate, he will have gotten an allocated land that is genuine from the allocating authority, the land registry or other government institutions saddled with the responsibility of allocating land. Now, once he gets that land, it will be designated estate development or mass housing or others. Then, having gotten that land, that title document, he will either probably buy from primary allottees, of which he becomes a secondary allottee. Then he gets that land, and then he now goes to do his building plans, designs, and everything. And then he will need to get a layout approval from the Department of Urban Regional Planning, that is in Abuja. Then he gets his building plan approval from the Department of Development Control based on the density specified for the zone in which his land is located. After this, he has designed his layout. That means he brought out all the plots and all the necessary community services and infrastructure. Then he can now start selling land to the public. Now, if you are a normal individual and you want to buy that land, before you buy the land, before you even start, don't just go and pay on paper. First of all, request for those documents, the land title, the survey plan that shows the perimeter of the plot, and then the data, and then the size of the plot, and then the layout. Then you ask for the layout, you ask for the approved building plan. When you ask for those two and you see them, then you get copies of them. Then get an independent professional, either a surveyor or a town planner. Then they go and do their search and ensure that these documents are genuine. If they confirm to you that they are genuine, before you now start putting money. But what happens now is that you see some fine, well-dressed young boys and young girls, marketers, they just carry some flyers. Those flyers has pictures of beautiful houses in different locations with numbers and everything. And then they tell you that if you buy this land, you'll be this. They make all kinds of promises. Then you just buy the paper. Some of them don't even go and see the estate. So after you make up your mind you want to buy the land, you have to even go and see physically on ground whether this place exists and what is actually, and look at the paper, because sometimes the allocation will carry Guzape, but what is on paper is Bagudu. So it's for you to check and make sure that all these things are in line before you put your money down. But most people that have been affected here are those who just buy the paper, buy from they don't even know the developer, they just buy from those marketers, then they start paying before they come and start developing, and then after some time, look at this, sometimes 8 years, 10 years, they tell you the land is illegal, so they have to do this.
All right, we just watched some peaceful protests by some subscribers just a few days back, or yesterday rather. Their houses have been marked for demolition. Some of them are even living in such houses, already built, they've been living in it for years. But don't you think such things would have been avoided if the regulatory agencies have done their job while they were building such houses?
Well, a lot of things are at play here. I've been to that area like 2 or 3 years ago, and I saw marking by the regulatory agencies. The houses are marked, and I asked one of the developers, your house is marked, do you know the meaning of the mark? I said, don't mind those people. they won't do anything, they are not serious. That means somebody is probably assuring them that nothing is going to be done. But there is a process that has to that will take place before demolition takes place. Your house will be marked, and the information of why that house is marked will be communicated to you on that document they are giving you for marking your property. They continue development. The developers must make sure that developments are coming up every day. The more houses that are built in that estate, the more market they will get. I know once they start selling, the price keeps increasing. So, but if people don't develop, they cannot sell the place because people will be questioning, nobody has started building. So that means that's why they don't care. They don't take they don't obey the stop work order. Well, might be also that there are some people among the officials who mark that probably don't do their job well.
All right, so thank you so very much, TPL Lami Ayuba, for your thoughts on this question. Welcome back. Our gender setting has formed a cardinal component of public opinion, and accurate evaluation of such is important to public policy. Stakeholders in the sector have been setting an agenda for the incoming administration. Today we have Hakeem Ogunniran, the founder CEO of Eximel Realty Company Limited, and also the vice chairman of the board, Africa International Housing Show. Let's take a listen as he sets a real estate and housing agenda for the incoming federal and state government.
I will tell him that it's time to be deliberate and to be intentional about redefining the direction of the housing sector in Nigeria. I will tell him that we need to do that because it's important that we recreate the underlying philosophy. I think part of the challenges that we face as a nation is that the government has not properly defined the underpinning philosophy of housing as a right. A lot of political leaders still see housing as a privilege. When we get to a level that government understands that housing is a fundamental right of the people, then our approach to housing will be different. So broadly. The second thing I would tell him is that this government is very lucky because there is robust policy framework that they can just start to run from day one. Particularly, I think the National Housing Policy 2011 is probably the most robust document on housing policy I've seen anywhere in the world. Unfortunately, executing that policy at federal level has been a main challenge. So I will advise this government to go back to that policy because the policy is all embracing. It talks about institutions, it talks about land supply, it talks about finance, it talks about everything. Every element that you need to create a dynamic housing sector is in the 2011 National Housing Policy. And fortunately, the ERGP, Economic Growth and Recovery Plan of this government, of this outgoing government, also underscores the importance of housing because construction and real estate is one of the 6 critical sectors mentioned in that document, and some focus was also given to housing. Anything the government wants to do must focus on the 2 legs of the housing ecosystem. If you look at all successful housing models all over the world, they address the 2 elements of the housing ecosystem at the same time. You address the demand side as you are addressing the supply side. You cannot address the supply side and leave the demand side. So the government must understand that anything that we're going to do, we must deliberately focus on the 2 legs of the value chain at the same time as we are trying to sort out the supply issues. But what we have done in this country is that we have focused a lot on demand. If you look at the National Housing Policy 2011, it talks of housing finance, it talks of mortgage refinance. What did we do? We went on to set up NMRC, but NMRC is a liquidity creating vehicle. It means that, if you understand the way the chain works, it means that somebody must create the assets, somebody must finance the assets primarily, before NMRC can come in to create refinancing for the assets. So we went and put the cart before the horse. So there are no assets being created. There are no mortgages being created to over any assets. And then you set up an NMRC. So we need to understand that we need to tackle the two elements. We need to tackle the two elements of the ecosystem at the same time. When we do that, then we begin to have visibility as to what we need to do. Government needs to build a collaborative platform of all the players. The government has its role to do. The developers have their role to play. The financiers have their role. Look at what is happening in Kenya now. In Kenya today, they understand that the new government understands this. I've seen their new policy document on housing. They are focusing critically on the element. In fact, the president himself led the retreat. That's another thing that we need to see here. We need to see political leadership. We need to see a leadership that sends the right signal to the country, that we understand the significance of housing, we take housing seriously, and we're going to do what we need to do. So on the supply side, government has to attend to the issue of land availability. And I know we're still going to talk about state government. The reality of the matter is that there's land everywhere, but good titled land in the size that is needed to deliver the quantities of housing that we're talking about, they are just not available. Government has to take immediate steps to make land available.
Hello, my name is Casey Arrest. I'm the Executive Director of the Centre for Affordable Housing Finance in Africa, and we're based in Johannesburg, South Africa. Please keep watching Housing Development Programme. It's a great show.
Hakeem Ogunniran there, founder CEO of Eximi Realty Company Limited, setting the agenda for the incoming federal and state government. Also to contribute to this, I have architect Jumoke Akinwunmi. She's the managing director at Litio Real Estate. Take a listen.
Weak governance structures across board. And I am not saying that government is unable, but I'm just saying that we are in an environment where I think in many ways we may have the upper hand in terms of our ability to bring solutions to the table. It doesn't reside usually within government and within those institutions. And so that relationship, public-private engagement, I think we need to continue to work on that. We need to continue to make it happen so that the things that we want to see in terms of policy direction can actually start to happen. So there's some kind of osmosis that just needs to take place between the private sector and the public sector, where a lot of these policies may or may not be formulated, but are certainly not being implemented or implemented properly.
Welcome back. The stage is set for Africa's largest housing and construction expo, the 17th Africa International Housing Show. The event is the ultimate meeting point for industry leaders, housing finance executives, senior policymakers, and investors to collaborate, build partnership, and shape the housing and construction future. You have an opportunity of being an exhibitor on the floor of the venue. Now, here are reasons why you should exhibit. From visibility to credibility, exhibiting at a trade show has hundreds of benefits for your business. That is why the Africa International Housing Show, the largest housing and construction event in Africa, has created the best platform and a very profitable choice to establish a presence, whether big or small, for your company. Africa International Housing Show gives you a powerful platform for meeting new customers, reaching out to your existing clientele, and building a more established and reliable brand. The 2023 Africa International Housing Show will hold from the 24th through to the 27th of July at the International Conference Center, Abuja, Nigeria. For more details, do well to visit the website shown on your TV screen or call the numbers displayed. And that is it on today's episode of Housing Development. Thanks for your time. To catch up on all you've missed or to watch previous episodes of the program, subscribe to the YouTube channel Housing TV Africa. Do remember to follow us on all our social media handles. I remain Flora Ani, your Housing Diva. See you soon.